Is the Lutheran Church the only place I should expect to find the gospel? Hi, my name is Ted Rosenblatt, and I am here with my father, Dr. Rod Rosenblatt. This is Talks with Dad Rod. Dad, we are Lutheran here at 1517, and it's easy for us to fall into this tendency to be, to talk within our own frame.
Yep.
And it's easy for us to say, we're LCMS Lutherans, Lutheran Church Missouri Synod, and we tend to stick here in our crew because we can expect it to be Christ-centered and confessional, and It's going to be consistent, right?
Should be.
I guess that's 3 C's. I hadn't thought of that before. So, but the question is as our message, as the message of the gospel resonates with certain people, we find that it resonates across all lines. We find this goes everywhere, and I believe that's, in line with the parable of the seed sower.
Yep.
It's just everywhere.
Yep.
And I think this is a question that would work well for any particular denomination. Is this something that we should expect to find only in a particular denomination? In our case, it's Lutheran. Or is this something that we should be able to expect?
Think about the jokes about you'll be X when you get in heaven.
I like this one. This one's
Everybody
fun.
has them. And there's a reason for it.
When we all get to heaven, we'll all be Lutheran. Then everybody will understand, right?
Yep.
I have a certain family member who understands this joke.
Using the parable of the sower and things like it should rein in our arrogance. It should. I like to say to people, the parable of the sower tells us to sow on concrete, asphalt, any kind of soil that's around, you name it. So the Lutherans should not hold that the only place you can hear the gospel is in one of our parishes from one of our pastors. He ought not. And the guy who founded the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod, Walther, CFW Walther, kicked people upside the head if they were Lutheran and talking like that. We ought not. It's way broader. Now, the choices are analog. That is, there's some where I'd say, don't count on it ever. Rome. Historic, pre-Vatican II, Rome. Baltimore Catechism, Rome. But if you talk about our Reformed brethren, or some evangelicals, it can be that even after you're converted, that pastor might weekly preach the gospel to you. It might be, and thank him if he does it. Part of why we do it, I think, is a psychologist said to me one time, most people, the pole within their brains is good-bad. With Germans, it's right-wrong. Those are the poles. Well, the poor young German boy has a number of years to grow up learning the right way to do everything. Change a flat, make love to his future wife, frame a building. There's always, in a German, the right way and the wrong way. And then we do it with doctrine. Only we have gotten it right. It makes evangelism really difficult when you're right about everything. Garrison Keillor had a little book one time from his printing press. The cover of it had a scowling older German on the cover. Urgh. And one of the chapters in the book was the awful burden of being right about everything. So we've got particular temptations when we're in a Germanic church that will come easily to all of them, and we ought to be on the side of saying, whoa, easy there.
Now we know that we like to tag. We have German in our heritage, so it's a fun little exercise in pointing at our own. But we know that there are other. I know I've heard from some Reformed folks. They have their own vein of something similar.
Sure.
And it's hard when there isn't this inclusive attitude about the message that's being brought, the one that's being preached, the one that's being taught. And that is that this is for you. This is, your qualification is that, Jesus Christ died for the sins of the world. He died for sinners. If you're a sinner, you qualify.
Yep.
This is, I was reminded of this recently when I was doing some work and was reading about the study in part. It kind of went through it real briefly, touched on it. The study of Christ's prayer himself,
John 17
for one church that we,
John 17,
right?
High priestly prayer.
And from what I believe you have talked about, I believe that's what that means, that we would be united on the gospel. And I think that, we have denominational splits based on our opinions about scripture here and there and across, and we end up saying we agree with this, we disagree with that.
Yep.
This is the group I most agree with, and so forth and so on.
Yep.
But one of the things that is easy to get lost in the whole discussion is the one thing that we should be united on, and that is Christ dying for the sins of the world, Christ dying
And
for
it
sinners.
being enough.
Sufficiency.
All by itself, sufficient. Not you adding anything. That's the enemy. Don't add anything.
Well, and I think there are obviously, we can go on with this, multiple levels of discrepancy, including like a high view of Scripture and that
Sure.
sort of thing, which we would hold to. This is a longer conversation, but at least I wanted to touch on the idea that we as Christians broadly should expect that we should be hearing the one thing that we are supposed to be hearing in church, regardless of denomination, right?
Even after you're converted.
That the gospel is for Christians as well as the unbelievers.
That's right. That's right. To hear the gospel preached into your ears. And one hopes a supper that actually delivers the gospel, a baptism that actually delivers Christ to the sinner. These things you start to narrow down. And I would say, don't hope that you're going to find that preached in a Roman Catholic church. Their doctrine has been determined way back at Trent. They're able to woozle around and try and make it sound different than it is. Stick to the Protestant denominations and confine yourself to your odds are better.
Well, and the best part is for Roman Catholics, there's actually good news. There is good news.
Yeah.
There is good news. These things are for you.
We'll have thousands, zillions of Roman Catholics in heaven because they didn't listen to their priest.
The canons.
Yeah, they didn't. Whatever he was talking about, and the part of works sort of went off their backs like water off a duck's back. Great.
We're going to wrap this. I can see we're going to go down a rabbit hole. If we don't, we could do more of this in another episode. We hope you've enjoyed your time. Go to 1517.org for more content like this. We hope you enjoyed your time and you found this edifying and probably caused some discussion. And we will talk to you soon. Thank you. Thank you for joining us on Talks with Dad Rod, part of the 1517 Podcast Network. This podcast and all 1517's content is made possible through financial support by listeners just like you. Please visit 1517.org for more, and please consider clicking on the donate button and making a recurring or one-time contribution to help us share this good news in a world which so desperately needs it.